Fool? Hey, fool. Kevin's attempts to revive the young man are found to be fruitless. Young Perkins remained hovering between the realms of light and shadow. Suspended there, he hears the gentle voice of Jonah calling, summoning him into the blissful sleep of eternity. "I'm coming," replies young Perkins, his voice reflecting a dreamlike state. There he is engulfed in the dark realm of eternal rest, hovering, suspended between dimensions. Young Perkins greets the spirit of his cousin Jonah, who appears every bit alive. "Jonah!" shouts the young man. "Jonah, you're okay. Them white folks didn't kill you? I thought they got you for sure." The young man voices his relief. The soul-lifting sound of choral voices emanate all around them. Jonah seemed to smile at young Perkins with a glow that reflected a pleasant peace. The presence of elders long past appear from behind. Their bodies shimmer with a heavenly aura. Its golden illumination far surpasses anything of the ethereal. Many of the faces are strange to young Perkins, while others he remembers only in the pages of photo albums. Photos of uncles, great-uncles, great-great-grandfathers, of elders which had long since passed. The warm glow of blissful grace remove all fear. Thoughts of earthly pleasures, of earthly desires, are but a faint memory. With all of his heart he is overcome with the stubborn urge to remain immersed in the heavenly balm of that dreamlike realm. With every fiber of his being, the young man's contented spirit rejects the world and all of its horrors. Amid the gathering of elders past, a single individual approaches. A handsome black man in his early 30s smiles with a familiar warmth. It is then that young Perkins suddenly recognizes the greeter's friendly face. "Grandpa." The young man is pleasantly surprised to see the youthful face of that of his grandfather, who appears the very figure of health. In life, he had never met his grandfather, who had died years before his birth. He had only known him through the faded photos of his grandmother's picture book, she relating stories of their life only when in a melancholy mood. "Tell Emma not to worry. Tell her not to doubt. We'll be together again someday, nevermore to part." With those words, young Perkins understood the love his widowed grandmother felt for her departed husband. How kind he seemed. His spirit exhibited a tenderness, an all-encompassing compassion that the young man had never seen or felt in the earthly realm. While yet smiling, his grandfather steps back, thereon other figures stepped forward and introduce each other. "I'm Gloria, your great-aunt. Hi there, young man. I'm Stephen, your great-uncle." Each individual approximately the same age, their hair as thick and black as a raven's wing, no signs of the mark of time. Their faces bore no lines of age. Behind them stood a wall of pure, gleaming gold, behind which the voices of countless multitudes, thousands, millions, all throating rapturous declarations of praise to the divine, the splendor of which echo into infinity. Amid the heavenly hue, two winged figures appear before him. Their presence emits a blinding radiance that causes young Perkins to quickly look away. Above all, the echoed voice of one who is eternal commands the young man to return. Flanked on both sides by the glowing figures, he is escorted through a shimmering, sparkling tunnel of light into the dark, heavy burden of earthly flesh. Young Perkins' eyes remained tightly closed, for the brightness of the spirits that guided him still seemed to have hold of his hand. But now the feel of the hands felt very different, not the feel of spiritual flesh, but warm, feminine, human hands gripped his palms, one holding on to his right hand, while the other clasped his left. With the opening of his eyes, young Perkins realizes his present location. To his utter amazement, he finds himself in church, seated on the front pew. Clutching his right hand was the mournful face of his grandmother, while looking to his left appeared the downcast face of that of his Aunt Bessie May. Prominently displayed before him, right underneath the preacher's podium, rests a veritable botanical garden, a wondrous riot of colors, flowers, roses, daffodils, lilacs, lilies, daisies, all surrounding a simple rough-hewn wooden casket. Slowly, like the rising of the winter moon illuminating the dark chill of night, like a sleeper awakens by a sudden slap, young Perkins gasps in disbelief. He was back on Earth, attending Jonah's funeral. How long had he been in that wondrous realm? To him it seemed but an instant. What was the interim between the time of his unconsciousness to that of the present? Young Perkins' mind vainly struggled to understand. The church was filled. Everyone was present, their mournful faces all reflective of their somber black garments. Pastor Jackson preached a sermon concerning the resurrection to come, his stirring oratory lifting the crowd but not the mood which remained unchanged. For there, before all, laid the blasphemous outrage of a murdered child, not merely murdered but hideously mutilated, a ghoulish reminder of life in Muskie. The fact that the casket was closed spoke volumes, a stark reminder of the fate that could befall anyone, whether man, boy, or child. This was simply the way things were in Mississippi. This was the reality of life in America. After the benediction, 6 of the church elders gently lifted Jonah's casket and began the sad journey to the cemetery. Exiting the double doors, the pallbearers continue down the path, walking in slow steps. They are followed by the congregation. Young Perkins and Jonah's family shadow the pallbearers. Among the group of pallbearers was none other than his uncle Silas, who has every appearance of insobriety. Lingering in his drunkenness, he can barely support the casket, let alone his own weight. Fighting to hold back tears, he weaves back and forth, encumbering the 5 other pallbearers, who nearly drop the casket. Silas rejects the urging of the other men to release his grip. He continues poorly, playing the role of that of the grieving pallbearer, reeking to the heavens with the nauseating stench of cheap hooch. Young Perkins had attended a funeral or two, but this time things were different. Usually the congregation sings some sort of religious hymn, whether it be one of uplifting joy of an elder gone on to glory, or a hymn sung sad and solemn, reflecting the passing of an individual who had departed the earth before their time. However, now the congregation walked in absolute silence. The only voice heard was the weeping of Bessie May. Several dozen yards behind the old wooden church rests the Negro cemetery where the congregation's members are laid to rest. However, today, the pastor leading the group passes by and walks down the trail that is seldom, if ever, trod. This narrow trail led to the plot of land called Potter's Field. There is where strangers, ne'er-do-wells, and the unbaptized are put to ground. In turning left, Bessie May instantly realizes that Jonah is not to be placed among the souls of the righteous. Stricken to the core, she instantly burst into fits of wails and cries of agony. Potter's Field, an ungodly place, like an oubliette, a place of forgetting. 5 miserable, lonely acres of unhallowed ground, where the bitter graves of lost souls groan in an uneasy sleep. There, among the doomed and the damned, are graves where bramble bushes, crabgrass, brood amid dry clusters of an overgrowth of dead weeds. No marble headstones grace their graves, merely rough-hewn wooden crosses, half-rotted, each leaning like dying men. As the congregation reaches a spot where Jonah is to be placed in the ground, an open pit awaits, to receive that which the church grounds had rejected. Jonah's mother cries out, "My God, Jesus, my God, don't let. Through the anguish of tortured eyes, Bessie May ceases her mournful supplications and simply resigns herself to the bitter fact that her son will rest among the restless. With clasped hands, she emits moans and groans in the deepest heartfelt manner, bringing tears to all, even to the eyes of young Perkins, who weeps to see his cousin lowered down into the earth. Down, down, down. The hole is merely 6 feet, but it seems an eternity until the casket reaches bottom. Pastor Jackson begins to recite the Lord's Prayer. The congregation joins in. 5 men begin shoveling in shovels full of earth, where it slowly closes around the casket containing Jonah's final remains. As the soil reaches the surface of the earth, men began to pat the earth tightly into place. In the distance, the faint sound of a bell chiming is heard by all. The congregation's prayers echo into silence as the conjurer woman passes. A cold chill follows a raw sense of unease as all save Silas, avert their eyes. The chiming bell is followed by the tap, tap, tap sound of the wooden walking stick. Its hollow reverberations eerily announce her dreadful approach. Silas's drunken gaze follows the figure. Mumbling curses beneath his rancid breath, his fear builds to anger as he finds a father's courage. "Damn you!" His voice thunders with anger. All present attempt to warn Silas of the danger. Their efforts to assuage him from his open demonstrations only urged him further into fury, a fury of absolute rage. With loud curses, Silas breaks the grips of those who would attempt to restrain him. Bursting from the midst of the crowd, he boldly staggers into the path of the conjure woman. It was you, killed my boy." Through gritted teeth, he bitterly accuses the witch. Damn you to hell, Granny Hagen." He lay before her feet, there in the dust of the lonely road. Silas, in a tortured voice, commands, "Here I am, overshadow me." The conjure woman coldly ignores the challenge and merely steps around the prostrate body, her shadow coming nowhere near him. She continues on her way, her cane tapping slowly in the distance. Silas remained prostrate in the dust of the road, his hands clutching fistfuls of dirt. Silas's mouth opens into a silent scream. He bares his teeth and begins to gnaw the ground in anguished fits of helpless anger.
Welcome to the deep dive. We're jumping straight into a narrative excerpt today that really sets up one of the most brutal and effective literary contrasts we've looked at.
It's quite something.
Yeah, this journey moves our protagonist, young Perkins, from this world of total, blinding, heavenly light straight into what the author actually calls the dark, heavy burden of earthly flesh.
It's an instant whiplash.
Exactly, a shattering moment. And we really need to understand how the author built up that, spiritual high only to crash us right back down into this harsh reality.
That's precisely our mission today. We're dissecting Chapter 12 of Curse of the Mandrake, Hope for a Brighter Day. And structurally, it's a masterpiece.
Right.
The author uses this systematic progression, sensory details, emotional cues, first to build this really vivid, transcendent, near-death experience.
Okay.
And then, almost immediately, weaponizes that memory.
Yeah.
Uses it to highlight the violence, the injustice, the stark pain of life in the physical world.
So our journey starts with young Perkins kind of suspended. He's unconscious, hovering between the realms of light and shadow. And his friend Kevin is trying to revive him, but it's just not working. Fruitless, the text says. He's right there on the edge.
He is. And the transition starts gently, doesn't it?
It does?
It's auditory first and comforting. He hears this gentle voice, his cousin Jonah's voice, summoning him into the blissful sleep of eternity.
Now, Jonah, context suggests he's the one who's actually died, right?
Correct. But when Perkins meets Jonah's spirit, the text makes a point of saying he appears every bit alive, reflects a pleasant peace.
Yeah.
So right away, the spiritual realm is presented as the opposite, the negation of physical suffering and death.
And that first meeting, it escalates pretty quickly. Suddenly, he's surrounded by elders, uncles, great-uncles.
Long past relatives,
Yeah.
great-great-great-grandfathers even. And the scene becomes visually overwhelming.
That visual aspect sounds key.
Oh, it is. Their bodies don't just glow, they shimmer with a heavenly aura and golden illumination. The text emphasizes this light surpasses anything physical.
Purposefully removing fear.
Systematically dismantling it, yes. The spiritual realm here is defined by the immediate removal of earthly decay, earthly fear.
What I find fascinating is that absolute rejection of the physical self. Perkins feels this stubborn urge to remain immersed on the heavenly balm, right? And earthly pleasures become but a faint memory. It's not just presented as a nice place, it feels like it structurally invalidates earthly life altogether.
Exactly. And the author uses the appearance of the dead to really hammer this home. The elders' faces, no lines of age, their hair is black as a raven's wing.
Eternal youth.
Precisely. It's a powerful narrative tool. It shows that time, aging, suffering, those are corruptions the heavenly realm just inherently rejects. You return to your ideal self untouched by hardship.
Which sets up, I think, the most tender moment, maybe the most crucial for his return, later meeting his grandfather.
Right, who he never knew in life. Died long before Perkins was born.
Yet he recognizes him instantly from old photos.
And this grandfather, who did succumb to death and age in life, appears as a handsome black man in his early 30s. The picture of health.
Again, reinforcing that theme of renewed vitality, anti-aging. It's like commentary on Earth's limits.
It absolutely is. And the message he gives Perkins for his grandmother, Emma, it's incredibly purposeful. It offers closure.
Tell Emma not to worry, tell her not to doubt. We'll be together again someday, never more to part. It shows this compassion, linking this transcendent place back to the living.
And the environment itself confirms the ultimate nature of this place. Behind them, a wall of pure, gleaming gold.
Wow.
And behind that wall, the sound is just immense. Voices of countless multitudes, thousands, millions, all throating rapturous declarations of praise.
So overwhelming splendor, sight and sound just echoing.
Into infinity, yes.
Yeah.
But his stay is short. The return mechanism is quite authoritarian.
Right, the two winged figures appear blindingly radiant.
And cutting through all that light and sound, this echoed voice, one who is eternal, commands him, go back.
Okay.
So the structural purpose of this NDE is now complete. The authors built the ultimate standard, peace, perfection, physical renewal.
Making the return feel like a punishment?
Exactly. This profound experience, the light, the sound, the youth, the peace, it's all designed to make the forced return feel not just like waking up, but like a heavy physical sentence.
And what a sentence it is. He's escorted through that shimmering, sparkling tunnel of light.
And immediately forced back into the dark, heavy burden of earthly flesh. The sensory shift is abrupt, total.
From light and sound to touch.
Primarily touch, yes.
Yeah.
Tactile, localized sensation. He keeps his eyes closed at first, but the feel of that spiritual body is instantly replaced by warm, feminine, human hands gripping his palms.
His grandmother and Aunt Bessie May.
His grandmother on the right, Aunt Bessie May on the left. It's that immediate physical connection to his family that grounds him, replacing the eternal connection he just felt.
Then he opens his eyes. The location shock must be immense.
Huge whiplash. He's not home. He's in a church, seated on the front pew. And the first thing he sees is this stark focal point right below the preacher's podium.
The flowers.
It's this masterful contrast, isn't it? A veritable botanical garden, this wondrous riot of colors, roses, daffodils, lilacs, lilies, daisies, life, vibrancy everywhere.
But
all that life is surrounding one single grim object, a simple, rough-hewn wooden casket. Life trying and maybe failing to mask death.
And then the penny drops, the realization.
Like a slap, the text says. He gasps. He's at Jonah's funeral. And for him, that whole time in the spirit realm, it seemed but an instant.
Which just cranks up the horror of being back.
Exponentially. The scene in the church is thick with this oppressive grief. Everyone's in somber black garments. Pastor Jackson's preaching about resurrection, trying to invoke the very hope Perkins just experienced.
But it's not landing.
The mood remained unchanged. The reality right there in front of them was just too severe, too raw to be lifted by Scripture alone.
And the text doesn't shy away from that severity. Jonah's death is a blasphemous outrage of a murdered child, hideously mutilated.
And the most chilling detail, the one that really anchors the social context. The casket was closed.
That speaks volumes, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Structurally, it's this stark, physical reminder of the specific, violent fate possible for anyone, man or child, in that time, that place, Mississippi.
So the spiritual perfection he just saw is utterly powerless against this.
Completely powerless against this raw, earthly horror and injustice. The spiritual escape has to be absolute, precisely because the social injustice is absolute.
And that burden, that injustice, it manifests in such a human, broken way during the procession. Uncle Silas.
Ah, Uncle Silas. He's the perfect tragic antithesis to those perfect sober elders Perkins just met.
Right. He has every appearance of insobriety.
Reeking to the heavens with the nauseating stench of cheap hooch. That's the smell that replaces the heavenly aura. He's weaving, barely holding the casket, nearly dropping it.
Just flawed, messy humanity struggling.
Struggling under a burden that's far too heavy, physically and metaphorically.
And
the procession itself, heavy.
No hymns, no singing. Just silent.
Absolute silence, except for the weeping. The only sound is Aunt Bessie May's heart-rending cries.
Then comes the final betrayal, maybe, or condemnation. They pass the usual cemetery.
The Negro cemetery, yeah, where congregation members are normally buried. But Pastor Jackson leads them down a different path, a narrow trail that is seldom, if ever, trod.
Taking them to Potter's Field.
Potter's Field, the burial ground for strangers, ne'er-do-wells, and the unbaptized. That location choice is just incredibly bleak. It's a final judgment.
So in the wider context, Potter's Field is for the poor, the unknown, the dishonored dead.
Traditionally, yes. So for Jonah, a murdered child, to end up there, it feels like the community, or at least the church leadership, is acknowledging his lack of status, maybe. Rejecting his final resting place within the fold.
Wow.
The text calls it an ungodly place, an oubliette.
A place of forgetting, like a dungeon you can't get out of.
Exactly. And the description of the place itself matches that feeling. 5 miserable, lonely acres of unhallowed ground.
Neglected, no proper headstone.
No marble headstones. Just rough wooden crosses, half-rotted, leaning like dying men. Brambles, crabgrass, dead weeds everywhere.
Those leaning crosses, it's like even the markers are defeated.
It's effective, pathetic fallacy, isn't it? Showing the weight of the place, the earth itself winning.
And Bessie May's reaction, Jonah's mother.
Initially, she lets out these fits of wails and cries of agony, pure anguish, when she realizes where they are.
But then she stops.
Then she reaches this point of absolute emotional exhaustion, resignation. The text says she resigns herself to the bitter fact that her son will rest among the restless.
That's devastating, accepting the social defeat, even knowing perhaps about the spiritual peace he found.
The memory of that solace just cannot mute the agony of this earthly condemnation. You can't fix this.
The final scene, lowering the casket. 6 feet, but it seems an eternity.
The men are shoveling the earth back, patting it down tightly, and then the congregation's silent prayers just stop. They fall quiet.
Because they hear something.
They hear a faint bell chime in the distance,
Aw.
and the very last line is chilling. The prayers fall silent as the conjurer woman passes.
Ah. So something else is present.
It signals the entrance of a different element, doesn't it? An acknowledgement that even at this ultimate moment of Christian burial, there are older, powerful, local forces at play.
Forces outside the church's control.
Outside the church's jurisdiction, perhaps even outside that simple heaven-earth dichotomy they just explored.
So that whole journey, heavenly perfection to unhallowed ground, that's the engine driving this chapter.
Absolutely. Perfect ethereal connection, instantly replaced by raw, agonizing, unjust reality, rooted specifically in social horror, inequality.
It really raises the question, doesn't it? The narrative shows a world where even profound spiritual comfort, that promise of eternal youth reunion, it can't fully erase the horror, the specific social injustices of life.
It can't. And the knowledge we gain here is seeing how the author did it. Systematically using sensory details, shifting from overwhelming light to sharp tactile, olfactory discomfort to just slam home that staggering gap between spiritual promise and social reality.
Indeed. And it leaves you thinking about that final chime, right? What does that faint bell as the conjurer woman passes? What does that imply about the lasting forces at play there? Forces that hold sway even in a place defined by condemnation and forgetting.
Suggests the spiritual landscape, even in death, is maybe far more complex than just heaven and hell.
Something for you to keep turning over in your mind long after the dirt has settled?